Alright guys, welcome back. So we're going to be starting in here. We're going to go through patch point 3 and we're going to be talking all about what the patch has, the quality of life stuff changes, and what really messes with the offlane here. If you're looking for an overall patch view, I could start doing those, but for right now we're just going to keep everything mainly on just the offlane section because I don't see a lot of people doing content on it. So we'll get right into the patch notes here. A bunch of words saying they add a bunch of stuff and they're excited to keep moving on with the team. In 2023 has a lot of stuff to come in through the year. Revenant, new hero, right? Coming to pop up. All you people out there like, I need to play him in the offlane. Do not play him in the offlane. There's a reason for that. In his ult, yes, you could probably get out of a gank with it, but just understand that's going to be people running at your face like a Grox, a Crunch, or a Steel, or a Sev. So you're not really going to have the survivability or the sustainability to really stay in the lane with those guys, and you don't have an escape with him. Okay, so you're definitely going to be wanting not to play Revenant in offlane, but he does look good though. His kit looks really well. You're definitely going to see a lot of people playing him ADC, just trying to get a feel for him. So until we figure out a way to either counter build or know how to focus on the Revenant and how to kind of take him out of the game, we'll do a separate video on that. Major improvements. The major improvements that they're coming with, this is the quality of life stuff that we're going to be talking about now. The profile tab and early access icon. So essentially they're going to have a customizable loadout is what I like to call it for your profile. You're gonna have profile icons, so the little picture that you got in the early access bundles that we purchased, you get to be able to use them now. But you can also see where it says borders here, titles, and profile background. Those are something to be looking out for. I'm really excited to see what they bring with those. I think it's gonna be really cool. Maybe like something like Smite has, so when there's like a loading screen, you have like a little background behind your profile and stuff like that. I'm really excited about it. This patch, we're introducing creep score bounties. These are designed to remove situations where teams are not rewarded enough gold when killing an enemy hero from a significant deficit. Just by that line, I'm assuming that the kill bounty is not a lot of gold. I think they should just increase the kill bounty if they're worried about that. This is normally because enemy heroes have gained a significant amount of creep score relative to your team's average. That's just, like I said before, it's your job while playing the game to worry about your creep scores, right? Before, we only accounted for a hero's kill streak in the bounty system. Now these enemy heroes will also increase the same bounty through the amount of creep score they have relative to your team. This will allow us to reward players that are significantly behind in the economy from multiple sources to come back into the game through enemy misplays. I understand where they're trying to go with this, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, they have this in League. I understand it, but I still don't think it's a good thing just because another successful game has it. Post-match screens. This is really awesome. I know a lot of us have been asking for it, so here it is, right? So we're adding 2 post-match screens in this update. The first is a screen that will allow you to add players after a match. So this one right here, it allows you to add players after a match. I'm not sure like how that will kind of be implemented, but we'll definitely see. Why not start grouping up with teammates that you enjoy playing with after a great game? Question mark. There's not a lot of them out there. The other new screen is a post-match statistics screen, allowing you to dive deeper into those juicy stats from your last match, which is really good. I really like that we're able to kind of dive in and kind of see what we did well, and who the other players were, right? So we can definitely kind of see like where we went wrong, what we did good, what we did bad into the game, and that's awesome to better our game, right? Weekly leaderboards. I'm a little skeptical about this, right? But let's get into it. Each week, we'll be sharing your leaderboard showcasing the top 100 players. Initially, this will be shared on social media, but as we continue to develop the feature, we plan to integrate it directly into the game so that players can easily compare their rankings with others. To qualify for the leaderboard, players must complete a minimum of 10 games per week. 10 games per week, people do 10 games a day, especially a lot of the tryhards, right? I don't like this necessarily. We already have like a leaderboard that's not like completely built out of the API, but it just goes off your win-loss, and that's already causing like toxicity like into the community, and I don't think a weekly leaderboard is necessary. I think they should just wait till rank comes out. Rank is really going to tell people where they're at, But I mean, there's some people that really like the weekly leaderboards because they want something to achieve, something to climb for, which I'm all for it. I'm just kind of in between on this. I just don't see the really a plus side as much as the negative side. But that's just me. If you like it, that's something there for you. I think that's a good quality of life feature for people that like it, but not so good for people that don't. End of match survey. Good. We get to give them feedback throughout the game without just complaining. So that's another way to give feedback. They added the report system last big patch. So at least this gives them a little bit more feedback on how their game is going, right? Matchmaking improvements and bug fixes. This is something that I was really excited about. So pretty much essentially we found out that the MMR was not working how it should. 5 stacks would go into like solo queues. Solo queues would just like going into different ranges. 5 stacks will go into different MMR ranges, so they're kind of fixing that. So since Predecessor launch, we have been monitoring the matchmaking system closely and have identified multiple bugs that we believe have impacted match quality. This patch brings a number of fixes to these issues, and we hope you'll see an improvement to match quality as a result. This patch also introduced one of our first improvements to our matchmaking system, the party modifier. Now, when queuing up in a group, the MMR of everyone in the party will be inflated based on the size of the party to compensate for the increased coordination and resulting win chance that parties typically have. So major improvement there, right? I'm a solo queuer by heart. I really only go play with other people unless like somebody in my stream is like, hey, you want to play, or my team is on, right? So this I'm really excited about this, right? Because I would just always solo queue to a 5 stack, which is just unbelievably annoying. For all you solo queuers out there that are with me, you understand what I'm saying. Matchmaking bugs that they found where those players would gain or lose large amounts of MMR after a match when the server failed to return to the player's MMR. So that's already messing up the MMR system, so I'm glad they fixed that. They fixed the bug where players could join a queue and incorrectly enter the wrong matchmaking bracket. Once again, that's a major bug, right? You're going to be losing a crap ton of MMR or gaining a bunch of MMR just because the MMR was in the right place, right? Fix the bug where players outside of matchmaking bracket could be pulled into the bucket during the matchmaking process. Right? We can say it over and over again, but the MMR system was just not working as it should, and a lot of people were thinking it, but we didn't have any proof. Now we do, so here it is, right? They updated the penalty system improvements. Essentially, I'm not going to read through all of this, but you get less of a penalty for dodging a queue. So that means while you're picking your hero, if you kind of desert after that, you get less of a penalty as if you were to AFK in a game or just leave a game, right? Which I think is fair, because when you're AFK in a game, you're kind of already in a match and you already started it, and it's going to affect the MMR. If you're just dodging a queue, you're not really essentially doing it. I actually think the AFK should be higher and the dodge queue should be less. Combat toxicity, so chat moderation update. Essentially what they do is they made a bunch of improvements to monitor chat and help with the reporting system. They got a new code of conduct, make sure everybody's in the UALA, and everything's following those guidelines. So I'm kind of excited to see what they learn from the chat moving forward from this update, because there's definitely a lot of toxicity chat, people just being racist, just sexist, or just outright just toxic, right? They made a bunch of other improvements as well as like the quality of life stuff. I'm not going to read through all of it because nothing really affects too much, but I did like the changing the visual effects for when a player dies. I think that's really cool. You can kind of differently tell about stuff. They changed a bunch of VFX and SFX inside there as well, and some controller updates as well for you controller players out there. Now we get to the juicy part where most people are like kind of worried about balance changes, right? What you're going to see, we'll talk about Countess here. They just changed her blue buff start, right? They like recommended, I don't have the tutorial on anymore, but it recommends a blue buff start instead of a red buff start because you get more of an advantage from it. I've said this before, if you're going to play Countess in the jungle, she's not a very strong jungler. She's a mid to late game character, but I guess apparently starting blue buff is more beneficial for her. So there you go. Crunch, they actually nerf Crunch. So if you're looking to play him in the offlane, he's a little bit less again. They keep nerfing this man to the ground. I'm okay with it. I don't like a Crunch in offlane just because of what they just nerfed, right? But I think this kind of puts him on a level playing field. The passive healing no longer benefits from damaging minions. So if you don't know his ultimate, you could literally press your R and just heal from the entire wave while hitting the enemy hero, right? So you still heal from hitting the enemy hero, but you're not getting the added benefit from hitting the minions as well. So that's a substantial amount of lifesteal that you're getting, which I think is really good, because now you can't just fight into minions and just heal up the entire time. Faye got a huge buff, but we're really not going to be playing her in the offlane. But for you mids out there, this patch is definitely for you guys. Gideon got a buff slash a slight, I would say a buff, not necessarily your nerf, it's just a different way how to build him. Howie's got a nerf, not necessarily, but it's just one of those small things that kind of tap them on the wrist like they do steal every other patch, right? Bellica, she got a bug fix to where her drone now actually scales correctly. And they decreased her lockout cooldown on her Q. If you don't know what that is, whenever she gets to slam the ground, it's not as long that she stands stationary. So she's able to move out of it quicker, so she's not just a sitting dog, right? So that's a really good on her. I still don't think she's viable in the offlane as much. I still think she's at the bottom of the tier list. I think she's worse than Feng Mao if you're going to play her in offlane. Chemical Rod got a nerf to where you need to stack it more. So the mana per stack decreased from 8 to 4, and same thing with the Azure Core, the full item, which I think is good because people are just stacking this very quickly. But it's also one of those things you only build on like 2 heroes out of the game, right? Bloodlust, they just renamed it better because Grok's passive is also named Bloodlust, so it's now called Bloodletter. Mindrazor, they renamed it. They renamed a bunch of items. Catalyst just has a new, make sure it says the right thing. One big thing to talk about is combustion. So if you're trying to do a little bit more damage, there's some builds you can go out there. Like if you're gonna put combustion on Countess, this actually got a buff. So now you have 100 extra mana, and you still have the same amount of power that goes with it, right? And you still have the same passive. So I think this is really good on combustion. You're gonna see a lot of people pick it up more. I like it if I'm trying to go like a bursty mage inside offline, and the extra 100 mana kind of helps me sustain a little bit longer. I mean, that's like an extra ability or two, right? Or an ult. Lifebinder got a huge change. We'll go through it here. Lifebinder again felt a little bit too niche to fit any buildings reliably. Instead, we're looking to enable magical bruiser builds by giving them a new capstone option, right? This newly improved Lifebinder should find a solid place as a 3rd or 4th slot for mages that build a bit more durable with items like Worldbreaker and Dreambinder. It also helps give Sevarog a new offensive option to scale into when he gains in the lead. So, big thing they said is it helps Sevarog, right? I think they are right when he gets in the lead, but Sevarog could already get into the lead, just people don't understand necessarily how to play him yet and how his build order is. But with Seb, you can get a big lead, and I think this is going to be one of his key items. Definitely a 4th item slot, probably. I don't think 3rd item quite. 3rd item maybe if he's in a really big lead, like he has a kill or 2 and up on CS, but definitely a 4th item to kind of set him apart into that mid to late game. What they did was the power increased from 50 to 60, lifesteal reduced from 15 to 10%. That was a little bit of a nerf. They took away tenacity though, which is kind of big, right? Tenacity is just one of those things like you just have to have, right, in most games. But they did add 10 ability haste, which kind of helps with your cooldowns, and on Sev that's pretty helpful because now your Q's on a really short cooldown, right? Recipe change to Blood Tome to Violet Bridge to Scepter. If you didn't know what Lifebinder build was, it was kind of just the 2 books and you just build straight to Lifebinder. Now they just kind of mess with the build path, so it builds into other things. They removed the leech passive and gave it a new passive, which was kind of upsetting when I first saw it, but you gain ability haste per 50 magical power you get, so you already getting cooldown, right? And then 0.5% bonus health. If you're building Worldbreaker and Raiment, you're already getting a crap ton of health and bonus cooldown from that. So it's kind of giving you back that Leviathan passive that they added, or that they had, into another item, which is good because that cooldown helps a lot, especially late game when you're trying to spam abilities. And Seth could survive for a long time if he's able to spam his Q a lot, right? Because he just gets that lifesteal and just be a little bit tankier in his fight. Golem's Gift, they changed this. This is like sometimes the item I would build on Countess in the offlane if I needed a little bit different of a physical protection. But this is mostly for like mid laners if they just need a little protection. They changed the power decrease from 70 to 60, ability haste increased from 10 to 20, so more cooldown, less power. And they renamed the passive just for a better passive name. So total magical power and physical armor decreased from 40 to 30. So that extra power and armor you get added on just from the passive was 40, which was a lot. But now they decreased it to 30. But instead of losing 10 at a time, you're only losing 6 at a time, which I find actually pretty good of a change. I don't use this item very often in the offlane. This is more for like your mid mages, right? One thing that you should be aware of though, mages are going to do a crap ton of damage, like Faye, Richter, with this item right here. So they essentially changed it from, instead of having a total cap of 35% increase in magic damage, they only did a 15%, or they decreased to 15%, and then they added the new passive. Your next instance of ability against an enemy hero will deal an additional 8% of their current health. Right there, you're already dropping somebody's health by 8% just by using an ability. Doesn't even need to do that much damage, right? And then after that, as magic damage, and increase their magical damage taken by 10% for 3 seconds, right? If you full combo somebody with Richter with this thing on, especially like late game, you're destroying them, right? Like a squishy or anything. Sorry, there's something in my eye. Ugh. And it's on a 30-second cooldown. That's 2 different rotations of your abilities. So like, essentially you get 1 rotation, wait for your cooldowns, and that second rotation you have it again, right? Or that third rotation you have it again. Prophecy just fixed the scaling on that. Tainted Scepter didn't really get too much of a change. It's not really that big. We'd have to see it in the game. I'm not too worried about that. Viper, just some bug fixes. And then for you guys out there that were worried about like why they keep calling it Leviathan, it's not the same item. Well, congrats. They changed it to Tainted Bastion because they wanted to keep everything anti-heal in the same nature, right? And that's usually for all the heroes and items. And then we go through the bug fixes, right? There's a lot of things here in the bug fixes. They fixed a lot of things like Kalari's, like when she went invis, like you could see her legs move, like the little boots. So they fixed that. They took out the BR potion, some controller updates, some SFX and VFX. I mean, there's not really too much. They changed the practice mode around just to be a little bit better visually and not getting stuck on certain things. Apparently there's a bug where the middle lane tower could target and hit players through walls. So that's good, that's gone out of there. They kind of mess with fixing an issue where Howitser's hover flight not being correctly interrupted when the rest of his ability was interrupted, which is good because a lot of times he'll just fly up and he'll still be up there and just be able to shoot. They kind of fix this one down here. They fix Countess's, right here, her recast Shadow Slip. They fixed a bug that allowed Countess to be able to incorrectly recast Shadow Club. This is where like when she's knocked up or just not able to move, she was able to slip out of certain things that she wasn't able to. They fixed a bunch of glitches and bugs like the loading screen. One of the big ones where whenever you're moving and you have auto run on and you just keep moving in that direction or something. Oh my god, dude, that thing was the most annoying thing in the world, and they fixed that. They fixed a bug that caused shields to be capped at a certain level. I didn't really and have like a bunch of experience with that, but they went through and fixed a lot of bugs. Also, the tower health now shows below 20% health, because a lot of times you'll see on the map like tower just sit at 20%, but you know it's like one hit. So at least now you can properly tell like if that tower is going to go down by a mini wave just by being in it, or if it's still at a decent amount of health. Yeah, so that's it, guys. I mean, really the big changes were a lot of quality of life stuff, but the only thing that's really affecting the offlane is the combustion. You're going to see that and the life binder. I feel like the life binder is going to be mostly on like your Sev and Countess, the people that are using lifesteal as like one of their niches, right? And then only other thing, Belka got a slight buff, so she might be a little bit more viable, but I'm not certain of it. Crunch got a nerf, so you're not going to see him as much, and he won't be as prominent as much. But all in all, I mean, I think it's a good patch. I'll give it an 8 out of a 10. There's some things that I would change, and we kind of went over that already. But all around, good patch. Mages, you're going to have a little bit more fun time in this patch, and let's see what Revenance is all about. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. We'll see what the next patch brings, and we'll see you guys. You can catch me on twitch.tv/f6. If you guys haven't yet, hit that like button, comment down below, subscribe, and then we'll have some fun, more videos coming for you, and it's gonna be great. All right, guys, have a fun one. See you.